IGCSE Physics, Paper Code 0625, Paper 2 Variant 2, May-June 2020. Today we are going to solve question number 21 to question number 40. Question number 21. The frequency of the microwaves used in a microwave oven is 2400 million Hz. What is the wavelength of these microwaves? Here frequency is given and wavelength is asked. To calculate the wavelength, we have to use the formula V is equal to F into lambda, where V for velocity, F for frequency and lambda for wavelength. Since here we have to find out the value of lambda, value of wavelength, so here we have to make lambda our subject. Now making lambda our subject, lambda will be equal to V over F. Here velocity is not given, but here it is given. We have microwave. Since microwave is an electromagnetic wave, and for all the electromagnetic waves, the speed in vacuum or in air is 3 into 10 power 8 meters per second. So here velocity of the microwave will be 3 into 10 power 8 meters per second. Now frequency is given 2400 million Hz. Here we have to convert this frequency in Hz. To convert this frequency in Hz, we have to multiply this one by 10 power 6. Now by solving this one, we will get the answer 0.125 meter. So here the value of lambda, value of wavelength is 0.125 meters. Next question. Question number 22. An object O is placed in front of a plane mirror as shown. Which row is correct? Here we have two columns. In the first column, position of the image, and in the second column, nature of the image is given. For the position of the image, if an object is placed in front of a plane mirror, the image is formed on the other side of the mirror at the same position and at the same distance as the distance of the object from the mirror. Means here the distance from the mirror to this object will be equal to the distance from the mirror to this image. This topic we have studied in image in a plane mirror. It is an object. It is the image of the object. Here the distance from the mirror to the object is equal to the distance from the mirror to the image. And the image is formed at the same height as the height of the object. Second thing, the image formed here is a virtual image because the image is not formed because of actual meeting of the rays. Now go back to our question. Here the position of the image in option A and B it is given 1 and C and D it is given 2. So here the position of the image will be at point 1. What about the nature of the image? Nature of the image it is virtual image. So here our correct option B, where for the position of the image it is given 1 and for the nature of the image it is given virtual. Next question number 23 is same as in paper 2 variant 1. This video I have already uploaded, so I am not going to discuss the questions that are same in paper 2 variant 1. So for the explanation of these questions, please watch that video. I will share the link in the description. Question number 24 is again same. Question number 25. A dolphin sends out a sound wave and echo returns 0.010 second later from a fish which is 7.5 meter from the dolphin. What is the speed of the sound wave in water? To find out the speed or to find out the velocity of a sound wave, we have to use the formula V is equal to S over T, where V for speed, S for distance and T for time. Here the distance covered by the sound wave is given 7.5 meters. What about the time? Here the time given is for an echo. Echo means dolphin sends out a sound wave. So the sound starts from dolphin, it strikes the fish and it returns back to the dolphin. and the time taken to complete this distance is 0.010 second. But here we need a time that is taken by the sound wave to travel from dolphin to the fish. So this time will be half of this given time, means the time taken by the sound to travel from the dolphin to the fish will be 0.010 divided by 2. When we will divide 0.010 by 2, we will get 0.005. So time taken by the sound wave to travel from the dolphin to the fish is 0.005 seconds. So velocity will be equal to 7.5 over 0.005, and when we will solve this one, we will get 1500 meters per second. Now 1500 meter per second is given in option D, so correct option D. Question number 26 is again same as of paper 2 variant 1. Question number 27. A student wants to demagnetize a steel bar. He uses the apparatus shown. He switches on the circuit for a few seconds and then switches off. He finds that the steel bar is still magnetized. What should he do to improve this method? Option A. Change the supply from an alternating to direct voltage. No, it is incorrect. To demagnetize, we have to use alternating current. To magnetize, we use direct current. Since here we have to demagnetize the magnet, so here we should not change the current supply from AC to DC. This AC supply is correct. Option B. Use a lower alternating voltage. No, it is not the reason. Option C. Remove the steel bar from the coil whilst the circuit is switched on. Yes, it is correct option. We have to remove the steel bar from this solenoid when the circuit is switched on. Since the student is not removing the steel bar, that's why it is not demagnetized. If he has to demagnetize, he has to remove the steel bar from the coil from this solenoid. So C option is correct option. Part D. Use a coil that has fewer turns on it. No, it is incorrect. This topic we have studied in the topic how to magnetize and demagnetize a magnet. Here it is the topic making a magnet and demagnetizing a magnet. In the topic of demagnetizing a magnet, we have studied that the magnet is slowly being pulled out the solenoid through which an alternating current is passing. So here we have to remove the magnet from this solenoid slowly when the alternating current is passing, means when the switch is on. So here our correct option C, remove the steel bar from the coil whilst the circuit is switched on. Question number 28. A cloth is used to rub an uncharged plastic rod. Both the rod and the cloth become charged. Why does the plastic rod become negatively charged and the cloth become positively charged? Here it is given plastic rod becomes negatively charged, means the plastic rod has accepted it has gained electron, and the cloth it become positively charged, means it has lost electron. So here plastic rod will become negatively charged because of gain of electrons, whereas cloth will become positively charged because of loss of electrons. Now we check the options. Option A, the rod gains electron and the cloth gains positive charges. Here the first part is correct, the rod gains electron, but the second part, the cloth gains positive charges, it is incorrect. In fact, the cloth will lose the negative charges. Option B, the rod gains electron and the cloth loses electron. Yes, it is correct option. The rod will gain electrons and it will become negatively charged, whereas the cloth will lose the electron and it will become positively charged because of deficiency of electrons. So correct option is option B. Question number 29 is again same. Question number 30. A cell passes a current of 2 ampere in a circuit for 30 seconds. In this time, the cell transfers 120 joule of energy. what is the electromotive force of the cell? For electrical energy, we have studied a formula E is equal to VIT, where E for electrical energy, V for voltage or electromotive force, I for current and T for time. Since here we have to find out electromotive force, so here we have to make V our subject, so V is equal to E over IT. Now energy is given 120 joule, so E will be equal to 120 joule. Current I is 2 ampere and time T is 30 seconds. So by solving this one, we will get the answer 2 volts. Now 2 volt is given in option C, so correct option, option C. Question number 31. The circuit shown contains 5 lamps J, K, L, M and N. All the lamps are glowing. One lamp is removed and 2 other lamps go out. Which lamp is removed? Suppose here if we remove lamp L, what will happen? If we remove lamp L, this circuit will be broken and current will not pass through this circuit and all the other lamps will go out. So here this one is not correct. Here we have to find out the lamp that you have to remove, and because of the removal of that lamp, 2 other lamps go out. If we remove lamp L, all the lamps will go out. Now what about lamp M? If we remove lamp M, nothing will happen because here by the removal of lamp M, still the circuit is completed. So all the lamps will not go out. So here not a single lamp will go out if we will remove lamp M. What happens if we remove lamp J? If we remove lamp J, this circuit will be broken and this lamp K and lamp N will go out. So here by removal of lamp J, the other 2 lamps that will go out will be K and N. So here we have to remove lamp J so that 2 other lamps will go out. Now we check the options. In option A it is given lamp J. So here our correct option, option A. Question number 32. What is the effective resistance of the following combination of resistors? Here we have 2 resistors. These 2 resistors are connected in parallel, whereas the combination of these 2 resistances are connected in series with this 4 ohm resistance. So here first we will calculate the equivalent resistance of these 2 parallel resistors. To calculate the equivalent resistance for these 2 parallel resistors, we will use the formula 1 over R is equal to 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2. Now here let us suppose R1 is 6 ohm and R2 is 8 ohm. So 1 over R will be equal to 1 over 6 plus 1 over 8, and by solving this one we will get the value R is equal to 3.33 ohms. So here equivalent resistance of these 2 resistors will be equal to 3.33 ohms. Now this 3.33 ohm resistance is in series with this 4 ohm resistors. When 2 or more resistors are connected in series, then the effective resistance or the equivalent resistance will be algebraic sum of all the resistances. So here the effective or equivalent resistance will be equal to 4 plus 3.33. It will be equal to 7.33 ohms. That is approximately equal to 7.4 ohms. That is given in option B. So correct option, option B. Next question is same as in paper 2 variant 1. Question number 34. The diagram shows a circuit used to switch on a heater when the temperature drops below a certain value. Which row shows the components that should be connected at X and at Y? Here it is given we will use a component X and a component Y to switch on this heater, and to switch on this heater we are going to decrease the temperature below a certain value. Now here we have to find out a component whose function depends on temperature. We have studied a component named thermistor, and in thermistor we have studied with the change in temperature the resistance changes, and when the value of resistance will change, definitely the voltage and current will also be changed. So here we can use a thermistor to switch on this circuit. So here the component Y should be a thermistor. Now first we check the options. Here we have two columns X and Y. In X and Y, for Y we are looking that only in the option B the thermistor is shown. It is shown LDR. Again here it is shown LDR. Here it is shown a simple resistor. Only in the option B for Y it is shown thermistor. So definitely our correct option is option B. Question number 35. The diagram shows the magnetic field due to a current in a solenoid. Where is the magnetic field the strongest? The magnetic field will be strongest where the lines of forces are close together, and where the lines of force are apart from each other, the magnetic field will be weak. Now here if we check all the four options A, B, C and D, we are looking that inside the solenoid the lines of force are closest together. So here the strongest field will be inside the solenoid. Outside the solenoid, here in A, here in B, in D, we are looking the lines of force are away from each other as compared to lines of force inside the solenoid. So here the magnetic field will be strongest inside the solenoid. So our correct option, option C. Question number 36. A beam of electron is passed through the magnetic field of a magnet. How must the magnet be positioned to deflect the beam in the direction shown? Here we have to find out the correct direction of the beam of electron after passing the magnetic field. Or we can say we have to find out the direction of the force that the electrons are experiencing after passing the magnetic field. To find out the direction of the force, we have to take help of Fleming's left-hand rule. In Fleming's left-hand rule, we have studied that this first finger, it represents direction of magnetic field. This second finger represents direction of the flow of electrical charges, and this thumb represents direction of the resultant force on the electrical charges. Now here, for the electrical charges, he considered positive charges. Since here we have negative charge, it is electron, so the direction will be in opposite direction. Means here for the direction of the electrical charges we will consider in the opposite direction as shown here. Now by taking Fleming's left hand rule, if we check the option A, in option A direction of the charges will be in this direction. Magnetic lines of force always start from the north pole and it moves toward the south pole. Now if we will use Fleming's left hand rule, this will not be the direction of the beam. So this one is incorrect. In option B, direction of the magnetic field will be from north towards south. Now the direction of the charges according to Fleming's left hand rule, it will be in this direction. Now if we check Fleming's left hand rule, the direction of the force will be in the same direction as shown here. It will be in same direction. It will be in this direction. So here our correct option, option B. It is our correct option. Okay, no need to check the other options. Question number 37. Uranium-235 can undergo nuclear fission in many ways. Which equation correctly shows a possible fission reaction for uranium-235? Here we have to find out the correct equation. Now how we can find out the correct equation? Just we have to find out the total number of nucleons before the reaction and the number of nucleons after the reaction. And also we have to find out the number of protons before the reaction and number of protons after the reaction. And this number of protons before the reaction and after the reaction should be same. Same thing for nucleon number. the nucleon number before the reaction and after the reaction should be same. So where the number of protons before the reaction and after the reaction is same and the nucleon number before the reaction and after the reaction is same, that equation will be the correct equation. Now first we check option A. In option A, total nucleon number is 235 plus 1. It is 236. Now after the reaction, it is 141. It is 92. Here we have 3 neutrons. So total nucleon number or total mass number will be 3. Now if we add 141, 92 and 3, we will get 236. So nucleon number or mass number before the reaction and after the reaction is same. Now we check proton number. For proton number, here it is 0, it is 92. So here total proton number is 92. After the reaction, here it is 56, it is 36, here it is 0. So just we have to add this 56 and 36. When we will add 56 and 36, we will get 92. So in option A, we have noticed that proton number before the reaction and after the reaction is same, and also the nucleon number before and after the reaction is same. So here our correct option A. If you will count the proton number and nucleon number in the other options, you will get that the nucleon number or the proton number before or after the reaction, it will be different. So other options will not be correct. The only correct option will be only option A. Next question 38 is same as in paper 2 variant 1. 39 is also same. Question number 40 is also same. Okay, now we have completed this paper 2 variant 2 of May-June 2020. Thank you very much.